I got pregnant by my daughter's ex-boyfriend and lost the baby. Then they got married and had a kid. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. This was back in maybe 1997. So I was 38 and my daughter was 18. She was dating Harry, who was 24. I had a drinking problem as well as dabbling in other things. I wasn't a good person, let alone mother. Not like I was abusive to my daughter or anything, but I was generally inattentive and cared more about alcohol and substances than her, especially in her teen years. I'm 14 years sober now. I disapproved of my daughter dating Harry, but I never told her why. He would flirt with me constantly, and the age difference also creeped me out. Also, he was a drinker and user as well, just like me. She broke up with him over his drinking. Soon after, she moved away, but not too far. Regardless, she didn't live with me anymore. Harry kept calling me and asking if we wanted to get drinks. I turned him down, but then one day he said he had a bunch of snow and I couldn't resist. He came over, we did it, and we ended up sleeping together. He was a very good-looking guy. He looked a lot like that ridiculous 80s Justin Bieber picture. For the next 3 or 4 months, he would sometimes come over and we'd sleep together and do stuff and drink. Any addict knows what it's like to have an addict buddy in that way. Then I got pregnant. I knew it was by him. I had stupidly slept with him without a condom a few times. I never told him I was pregnant, and I went and got it taken care of and kept it a secret. Anyways, I stopped seeing him after that. It was too weird. I also got sober for like 4 months before relapsing. Fast forward 2 years, and my daughter contacts me and tells me she got back together with Harry, and that he's fully sober. I was mortified, honestly. He was gonna tell her that we slept together, and she's gonna hate me for life. They came over one day and said hi. And when my daughter was gone, Harry told me that there was no reason to tell her about what happened. I agreed. It's been 16 years of marriage on their part. They have a kid together. Harry got cancer, then beat it. I got sober. That's basically it. I don't see them very often. They live in Texas and I live on the East Coast. But whenever I do, there's always tension between me and Harry. It's literally the first thing that comes to either of our minds. I can just tell. Not like sexual tension. Like, why did we have to do that? What the heck is wrong with us kind of tension. I think about this often, especially when I see my grandson. I always think that could have been my son if things had gone differently. But wow, what a disaster that would have been if I decided to keep that child. Wow, there's a lot to unpack with this one. First, I'm just gonna straight up address the elephant in the room. It's the mother's choice. She made the choice. That's her decision. No one else can tell her otherwise. It's her body. I'm not gonna have that argument. Instead, I'd like to talk about the mother's actions here. Now, it's quite obvious that she had a problem with using. While that doesn't excuse her behavior, it definitely explains it. And I will say that she wasn't sleeping with him while they were together. And initially, she didn't want any part of it. He was quite persistent, and when she was under the influence, it just happened. Is it right? No. Is it understandable? Sure. And I do agree that they made the right decision to just not tell the daughter about it. The past is the past, and it's not gonna make anything better if she knows about it. They've both agreed that it was a mistake, and I don't think either of them are looking for it to happen again. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some BaRIED music in the background, check out Easy Mode, also linked below. And don't forget to subscribe. My mother tried to sabotage my relationship with my girlfriend because I didn't want to be a priest like she wanted. My mother hated my first girlfriend. I'd actually been planning to become a Catholic priest and therefore celibate when I was in high school. So my mother saw my first girlfriend as having ruined my life's plan when we first got together. Now, naturally, my girlfriend and I wanted to spend as much time together as possible at that early stage of our relationship. But my mother did everything in her power to try and limit this. As such, one day I asked if it would be all right for my girlfriend to come over to our house, but my mother said not today. I wasn't particularly happy about this, especially because it was so obvious she was just being vindictive and had no good reason as to why. So I pressed her about it, and eventually, after much discussion, she agreed that my girlfriend could come over tomorrow, but not today. Again, this was just vindictive, because she knew that neither of us had as much free time the next day as we did on the day in question, so it would have meant way less time together for us. weeks. Nevertheless, I agreed to my mother's offer. So, right at the stroke of midnight, my girlfriend arrived at my house and I brought her inside. Immediately, my mother called me away into the kitchen and started getting very intensely angry that I hadn't done as I was told, restating that she said she couldn't come over until tomorrow. To which I replied, gesturing to the clock, "But mother, it is tomorrow." This is just a classic little snarky teen move, honestly. I feel like this is how every kid gets what they want around what their parents say. They're gonna take those words like a contract. You said tomorrow? Well, as of midnight, it is tomorrow. So, technically, I'm good here. The kid knows what you meant, but they know what they want as well, and that tends to take precedence in their mind. Manager tries to fire me for being on my phone. Too bad, I'm the best employee and they need me. I work as a direct support person. My company has some serious hate towards cell phones. They used to fire people on the spot if they were caught with a cell phone. Because of COVID, my company's been suffering badly. They lost about 40% of their staff and roughly half of their oversights. So they're basically hiring pretty much anyone and throw overtime at anyone who will ask for it. But they're still really struggling. It's gotten to the point where they have to have someone pick up clients and bring them to other clients' places because they don't have enough staff to cover everyone. I work with a large amount of clients and am pretty much capable of doing almost anything that the supervisors can do. I'm also one of the ones who've trained many of their employees, so they often come to me before they go to the supervisor. Last week, I was done working and bored out of my skull as usual. I was working with this client who didn't want to do too much besides watch TV or play on his tablet all day, so I was on my phone. One of the managers walked in and snuck up on me and tapped me on the shoulder. I turned to look at the manager and casually say hi. The manager then acts like I was surprised and trying to hide the fact that I was using my phone. I was casually holding it as the manager gave me a long lecture. I told the manager I work 16 hours a day and took on many tasks that I don't have to just to give the supervisor some breathing space. I sure as heck am gonna use my phone when there's nothing else to do. The manager then smirked and told me to put the phone away, and told me I'd have to come down to the office sometime in the next few days. I remind the manager of just how crappy some employees were, showing up late every day, literally sleeping on the job and things like that, and never got fired. So it was really unfair of them to get all up in arms about me being on the phone. I was told if I can't stay off the phone, then this isn't the right job for me. I went and grabbed my stuff and clocked out. The manager was jumping all over the place screaming about how I can't abandon my clients. I told the manager if I wasn't being micromanaged for tiny things that don't affect anyone, we wouldn't be in this place. The manager begged me to stay for just a bit so someone can come and take over. I say no. I got in the car and left with the manager standing there watching me, dumbstruck. A bit over an hour later, the supervisor contacted me and apologized for what happened. I was informed that they really need me around. And from now on, if anyone comes in, as long as I put the phone away, no one will say a word. Since I like my supervisor and am friends with many employees, I don't want to make things harder on them. And I also need the money. I reluctantly agreed to come back the next day. But if I ever hear anything about me being on the phone again, I'm gone. Just a few hours ago, the manager came in and saw me on the phone. I just put it in my pocket and got up. We had a short conversation about a work issue, and not a single word was mentioned about the phone. If there's some downtime and you've got nothing else to do, I think it's okay if you're on your phone for a few minutes. We all slack off for a couple minutes here and there. It's what helps us get through the day. Sometimes it's tough to go 8 hours straight without any kind of outside stimulation besides work. Sometimes that just couple minutes on your phone of personal time helps you avoid being burnt out throughout the day. Now, the problem is when employees take advantage of that gray area. Obviously, if there's something that you should be doing, that's what you should be doing. A good employee will know when it's okay to take a couple minutes to use their phone. Given all that our original poster seems to have done for the company, it sounds like they're a pretty good employee. I think we can let them have this judgment call that they have a couple minutes of free time right now. I decided that in the moment, I had to be honest during my best man speech at my friend's wedding. I'm a 30-year-old male and my best friend just got married last week. I just bought a house and my wife is expecting our son in November. So I let him know I was limited in what I could contribute financially, but did tell him I would try my best. So I went to the bachelor party in Maine, I rented the tux, and paid for mine and my wife's dinner at the rehearsal dinner. I also had a gift of $300 that I was going to give them, but we'll get to see why that didn't happen. His now wife, then fiance, texted me multiple times a day with updates. Fine. I didn't always respond, but it got to the point where if I didn't respond at least once a day, I'd get a call from my buddy. I have a full-time job and am redoing some rooms in my house, so I'm busy. She texted me for the following reasons. Number 1, my wife was not allowed to talk about our pregnancy at all. She didn't want anyone to focus on that more than her, the bride. Number 2, she was not going to order special food for my wife. No one asked her to. My wife was fine with whatever she was going to be served. 3, I wasn't helping the groom enough. He had to help her with favors, seating charts, and programs. So I had to help him with those things, according to her. She also said to get ready to help with thank you notes after the wedding. Number 4, she said that if I was a true best man, I would offer to pay for the bar bill. I don't even know what that means. Number 5, she'd to read and approve my speech before the rehearsal dinner and wanted to be included as much as my buddy. She told me to make up things if I had to. I was also not allowed to include anyone but the two of them, and no inside jokes or stories about my buddy that didn't include her. And last but not least, number 6, her last text said to tell my wife to keep it together and not make a pregnancy scene during the wedding. Also, she wanted her to choose a dress that downplayed her pregnancy as much as possible. I was just so aggravated, I spoke to my friend to see if he could reason with her. He told me to just play ball on this one. It's her day and to cut him a break, because he'd be dealing with her nonsense for the rest of his life. I was still annoyed, but I calmed down. The day of, all the bride and my buddy do is scold me, berate me, and bark orders. I head down to the bar for a drink. The bride's mother is there and warns me not to get too drunk because I've ruined her daughter's day enough. That was the final straw. I didn't give them the card with the cash, and in the speech, I used my friend's exact wording about having to deal with her nonsense for the rest of his life. I wished them the best and told them I'd always be there for him, especially during the divorce. So, am I the jerk? Well, it's hard to say no. While it could be argued that you're saying some things that needed to be said, they're probably best said in private, not during your best man speech. While there is some ill intent towards the wife here, at the end of the day, he is just caring about his buddy and wants him to be happy. He just doesn't think that this woman's gonna be the one to make him happy. My daughter is pregnant again, and I don't want to have to look after another kid. My daughter got pregnant the second year into college. It was not a good time. My husband and I stepped up so she could finish college, which she did. She just graduated and just got a job. The problem is, at the moment, she can't afford childcare or rent since her job kinda sucks. We were hoping she would be moving out by the end of the year. She told us today that she's pregnant again. When she told us, my instinctive response was, not again. She asked if I was happy for her, and I told her no, that we won't look after another kid, and we already wanted her to find her own place by the end of the year or next summer at the latest. She's ticked off at us and we got into an argument. She thinks we're the jerks. Well, first of all, good on you for stepping up the first time around and actually looking after the kid so she could do what she needed to do regarding her schooling. I'm glad to hear that she did actually finish school and got a job. That being said, I will say that this is something she should be being more responsible with, especially if she's already not in a place to properly take care of the first kid. She really shouldn't be having a second one. Steps should be taken to try and prevent that from happening. There's definitely some irresponsibility happening on the daughter's part here. What I will say is that it's a lot harder to just get your own place and pay for 2 kids in today's age. Maybe when our original poster was a kid, it was a lot easier. You could support a whole household with one income, and it was generally much more financially feasible. That's not the case today, but that doesn't mean that it falls on the grandparents to look after the kids at the same time. I understand that they want to have their own life. It's really hard to say who's in the wrong here, but at the end of the day, you gotta think about the kids. Do you really think that kicking her out and putting her up in a place that she can't afford with 2 kids she can't feed is a better situation for them? It's really not. At the end of the day, they're the ones who suffer the most, and that's what I don't want to see happen. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want some BaRIED music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.